He's editor-in-chief of Breitbart News and a New York Times best-selling author. And on this podcast, he brings deep research, prescient analysis, and world-class guests. He's Alex Marlow, and this is the Alex Marlow Show.
This is why you do it. This is what it's all about. Hosting a podcast, listening to a podcast, 45 straight minutes with the one and only border czar, Tom Homan from the White House. You're going to see a whole new side of this man, this hero, this leader in American life right now, personal stories. You see a side of him where he's connecting to the victims and he's explaining what he's gone through in 40 years in law enforcement and why he does the things that he does. Plus, of course, we're going to a lot of data on immigration. We're going to get his message for the Gavin Newsoms and the Karen Basses who are trying to stand in the way of immigration and customs enforcement. And we're going to get his inevitable but scary take. The violence will not slow down so long as the rhetoric coming from the left is as hot as it is just a big show. One of the most important interviews I've ever done. And if you don't enjoy it, then, well, you found the wrong show, because this is what it's all about. Before we get into it, we got a sponsor for today's show. It's so important. International Fellowship for Christians and Jews. It was just 2 years ago the terrorists murdered more than 1,200 innocent Israelis and took 250 hostages. Today, it seems as if the cries of the dead and dying have been drowned out by the shouts of anti-Semitic hatred. And the brutal attack on Jewish people, the most brutal since the Holocaust, has been forgotten by some people. Yet, as the world looks away, a light shines in the darkness. United in faith, Christians in America will boldly stand with Israel this month by participating in a growing movement, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, Flags of Fellowship. Flags of Fellowship unites churches across America, planting over 1 million Israel flags across our land. Together, we will combat hate and the scourge of anti-Semitism, one flag at a time and through our prayers. We can save lives, bring hope, and be a part of seeing a brighter future unfold. This October, please join us by donating your flag today. Show the world that Israel is not alone. To get more information about how you can join the Flags of Fellowship movement, visit ifcj.org, ifcj.org. Great sponsors, great people. Let's get into it. It's my interview with Tom Homan. Director Homan, it's really nice of you to sit down with me and Breitbart. I want to start by saying thank you. I don't start these interviews with public officials by saying thank you, but you're doing what I think is the centerpiece of the president's agenda, and you're the guy in charge. It's got to be grueling. Can I ask, how are you doing? What's life like for you right now?
I'm tired, but not just me. I work with a great group here at the White House. You know, people like Steve Miller, one of the most brilliant men ever met. Smart.
Yeah,
and a whole team here. But I work hard on strategic vision and pushing out things to the field, the CBP and ICE, and how they can be more successful, increase numbers and so forth. But it's the men and women of the Border Patrol and the men and women of ICE who I give the credit to, along with President Trump, because he's allowing them through his executive orders to actually do their job, uphold the oath they took, and make this country safe. So, people want to give me credit for stuff, but I'll give the credit to the men and women out there in the front line.
So why do you do what you do?
Well, look, I started in 1984 as a border patrol agent. I grew up knowing I wanted to be a cop. My dad was a cop. My grandfather was a cop. I always knew I'd be a cop. But, because of the tragedies I've seen in my career, both as a border patrol agent and ICE agent, it's hard to let go of that.
Yeah.
Because you know that if you secure that border, if you provide consequences for entering this country illegally, you're going to save lives. Like right now, illegal immigration is down 96%.
Amazing.
Right? So when 96% less people are coming, how many people aren't dying making that journey? How many Americans aren't dying from fentanyl overdose deaths?
Right.
Because we got the border locked down secure. A secure border not only saves lives, secure border gives a stronger national security. You can't have stronger national security if you don't have border security. We need to know who's coming in, what's coming in, where it's coming in, why it's coming in, and we have that now.
So I'm a Californian, and I always thought the fact that my state had no interest in securing the border my entire life is representative of something greater, just a general disrespect for law and order in general, that you could have a set of laws that the government does not believe ought to be enforced. Could you speak to that?
Well, look, California is a sanctuary state. SB 54 and the other things done over there act as an incentive for more illegal aliens to go to that state if they know they'll be protected. I've said it many times before, it's hard to believe that any elected mayor, any elected governor, or any congressperson would not want a secure border. Because I've said it many times. I dare any Democrat or open borders advocate or sanctuary city to answer one simple question. What's the downside on a secure border?
Right.
What's the downside on less drugs, less cartel activity, less sex trafficking of women and children, less non-suspected terrorist crime? What's the downside? And one of the reasons we have the most secure border in history right now is because of President Trump and his out-of-the-box thinking with executive orders.
Yeah.
The men and women of the Border Patrol. But who also deserves a lot of credit for secure border? ICE.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because they got 1,000 teams out there every day looking for criminal aliens and others, showing the whole world there are consequences. You're no longer going to cross that border, be released, and think you're home free. So by the work ICE is doing every day, it sends a message across the whole world. Don't give up your life savings to come to a country where you're not going to be released.
So I want to talk to you about success metrics. I want to talk about how you feel like progress is being made. But don't be one more personal question. You've got a wife, you had 4 kids. I think you were technically semi-retired before this, and you got pulled back into a super grueling job. Is you on a personal level, do you feel like you've got the support because you know you're beloved in certain communities, but you're also the most attacked person, I think, in the entire administration. Now, what's that like on a personal level, day to day?
I don't care. I mean, this is the second time I came out of retirement for the president.
Yeah.
It's hard to say no to the president of the United States, ask you to come back and help fix something.
Yes.
Where thousands of lives have been lost. So I knew the hate was coming. And, unfortunately, my family pays the price.
That's right.
Because I haven't lived in my family in months because of death threats against me. But my family understands the important mission. Look, if people wore my shoes for 3.5 decades of doing this job, if they've held the dead children I've held, talk to the little girls as young as 9 who were raped multiple times by, just animals from the cartel, stand in the back of a tractor trailer with 19 dead people at your feet that baked to death, including a 5-year-old little boy. Run an operation in Arizona where, alien smuggling cartels were ripping bodies from each other like you would drugs. And when someone couldn't pay their smuggling fees, they torture them, call their relatives up and torture them, let them listen on the phone, and kill them because they couldn't pay the fees. And these are just a few things. If you wore my shoes for 3.5 decades, you wouldn't ask that question. Because, I've seen so much tragedy in my life. It's who I am today. So when I began to ask, come back, secure the border, which again is going to save lives, how do you say no to that? So I do it. I love this country.
Are there any specific examples of the list you just gave that really make an impression on you when you're thinking that I need to take out some of the bad guys today? Like, are there any that speak to you?
Two that break my heart is the 19 dead aliens in the back of a tractor trailer. When I arrived on that crime scene, I immediately, when I got to the back of that tractor trailer, several bodies were already on the ground. When the doors finally opened, people rushed out to get air, and some of the dead bodies that were fighting for a small hole where the brake light used to be to breathe were pushed out. But I stood in the back of the trailer and looked back in there, and I saw a little boy in his underwear, later turned out to be 5 years old, dead. With who else later found out was his father was cradling him on top of him. Most of them, if not all of them, I remember, were in their underwear because they're trying to get some relief from the searing heat in that steel box, right? So I sat there and I looked, and I'm thinking, okay, these people are in a steel box, 170 degrees or higher, black, couldn't see your hand in front of your face, no air, no water, no food. They baked to death. And I stood there looking at that, and I looked at that little boy, and I had a little boy the same age.
I do too. I can barely.
And I remember when I looked at that little boy, true story, he had the same underwear on that mine did, So before I can process the scene, a lot of things go through my head. Why did he have to die this way?
Yes.
Why did any of them have to die this way? Because we had the secure border, it wouldn't happen. And when you talk to the survivors through the investigation, I was on the ground there for weeks. When you hear the stories, how that little boy begged his father, he didn't want to die. Any 5-year-old's got to beg his father not to die because he wanted to see his mom again. He wanted to see his sisters again. So a lot of people say, okay, there's 19 dead aliens. What a terrible way to die. No, dig into it a little bit more. How they fought for their life. How a 5-year-old begged his dad. A 5-year-old knew he was dying and asked his dad to save him. And what's his dad going to do? They're in a locked steel box. His dad, the reason he was there. So think what the father's going through to watch his child die in his arms, then later die on him. That changed me forever. And the time I actually talked to a little girl, she's about 9 years old, that, when made that journey through the cartels, were raped multiple times by members of the cartel. Now that little girl, her life will never be the same. Everything innocent and pure was ripped from her. So that's why I fight hard. And a lot of people ask, why do you get emotional when you're on TV? Why do you get emotional when you're in front of Congress? Because we can fix this. And I came back 4 years. We had the most secure border in the history of this nation under Trump 45. Biden administration came in and unsecured it on purpose.
On purpose.
It wasn't by
one.
accident. It was by design.
Yes.
And every morning I woke up pissed off because I knew, based on my years of experience and my investigation, okay, how many people died last night? How many women or young girls got sexually assaulted last night? How many have been forced into labor to pay off their smuggling fees? How many pounds of fentanyl came across last night to kill Americans? How many people from a terrorist-sponsored country got across last night? How much money did the cartels make last night? Every day I wake up knowing that people died the night before. And the danger that created is the biggest national security vulnerability this nation's ever created because we couldn't control who's coming across. I talked to chief patrol agents the entire 4 years. They said they lost operational control. They don't have operational control. One chief patrol agent used the term broken arrow. He says, it's broken arrow here because I can't possibly contain what's coming across. I'm lucky I'm catching 10%. So, they arrested over 400 people on a terror list. How many of the 2.1 million? Over 2 million people, known gotaways. They're caught on video, drone traffic, sensor traffic, or foot traffic. We know over 2 million people across the border were not arrested, were not vetted, were not fingerprinted. Who the hell are they? If we caught 400, how many of the 2.1 million came from a country sponsoring terror? Under Trump 45, we caught a total of 14 in 4 years. They had over 400 they caught. So every morning we got pissed off. So when you get a call from the President of the United States, when he got back in office, hey, will you come back, help fix this? How do you say no? You can't.
So we have been covering the cartels at Breitbart from the very beginning. It's something I would say maybe of my 10 years editor-in-chief of Breitbart, one of the things I'm most proud of is our Cartel Chronicles initiative, where we frame up the immigration crisis we have in this country as, it's not a race issue. It's not even, it is a jobs issue, but that's not, it's a humanitarian issue. It's a humanitarian crisis. That's what you're speaking to right now. But I want to.
Yeah, because they compare the two administrations. That the Trump administration is inhumane.
Yeah.
Biden administration, we're very humane, really.
Yeah.
So let's compare the numbers. Under Biden, 4 years, over 4,000 aliens died making that journey. Historic record. We never came close to that in 4 years ever.
Wow.
Over 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl coming across that border. Those policies were killing Americans at record numbers and killing aliens at record numbers. Under President Trump, I'll say it again, when 96% less people are coming, how many women aren't being raped? How many children aren't dying making that journey? Right. How many Americans aren't dying? Trump's policies are saving thousands of lives every year. Even the border wall, people want to attack the border wall. Well, it's Trump's project, and it's no, it's America's wall, because here's what people don't talk about. Every place a border barrier has been built, illegal migration's declined, illegal drug flows decline. But guess what? It also saves lives, because women and children can't get over that barrier, which means they're going to a place where there's not a barrier, and what's waiting on them? the men and women of the Border Patrol who's going to deal with the humanitarian crisis there, deal with the medical issues. So a lot of them are in bad shape when they get there. Walls save lives.
Unbelievable. Walls save lives. I don't think of you as a political person. You were appointed by Barack Obama as well. I don't actually know what your politics are. I imagine you don't view this as a political job at all. But could you speak to that?
No, I'm a cop. I'm a law enforcement guy. I've been a law enforcement guy since 1983 when I started as a police officer. I've been a career law enforcement officer my entire career until now. This is now a political appointment, but I'm not a politician. I'm just an old guy that's enforced the law for years. I spent years in the Border Patrol as an agent. I went to ICE after that. I climbed the ranks at ICE throughout the decades to become the first director of ICE that actually came up through the ranks. So the 20,000 men and women that work for me, I never asked them to do anything. I didn't do myself. I was one of them. So I've been in the trenches. I've been on the front line. And there's one thing I think any man and woman in ICE or Border Patrol will tell you, I've always had their six because I've been there. I've done it. I know what their struggles are. I know what the problems are. And with 40 years under my belt now, I've seen hundreds of policies come and go. Because I've worked for 6 different presidents, starting with Ronald Reagan. I've seen hundreds of policies come and go. I know what policies worked. I know what policies don't. So I'm just here trying to be the cop I've always been and trying to secure that border and make sure we remove as many public safety threat illegal aliens as we can.
Quick thought I had when you mentioned the death threats to you and your family. Do you think they're coming from foreigners or from Americans?
Both. I think after I gave my speech to the RNC where I said President Trump would designate the cartels as terrorist organizations, threats started immediately afterward from cartel. Now I know there's threats from people here, open borders advocates, people just lost their damn minds. But I got a great security team, and they run down all the threats, and people have been charged with threats. But it's we're in a world now. Like I said, I grew up in a family of cops. We're in a world now where the police are the bad guys. Yeah. The ICE being racist and terrorists, and the criminals are the victims. Right. And I think President Trump's leadership is going to get us back to what America should be, where police officers are well respected.
This is one of the crucial patterns across so many issues, is that the criminals are being treated like the victims in so many parts of society right now. One of the scariest things going. I want to talk about the big vision here. What are the steps to fix the border? I just want to hear it out of your mouth. What are the steps to fix it?
Like I said, we've got the most secure border in the history of the nation right now because of President Trump's leadership. We got a few more holes to plug. We got to finish building that wall because walls work. We got to continue sending a message that I don't want people to spend their life savings to put themselves in the hands of criminal cartels to come across the border. We still got children to find. 500,000 children were smuggled into the United States under the Biden administration, separated from their families and put in the hands of criminal cartels to be smuggled to the United States. The last administration lost track of 300,000 I couldn't contact, who weren't responding. And we've paid a lot of attention to that. I think we've located just under 24,000 already, saved a lot of them from sex trafficking and forced labor. I won't rest until we run down every single lead we have. And when we run down every single lead, we'll go back and do it again. I'm committed to finding all these kids. So that's more work to be done that's border related. And we got to continue sending messages to the whole world. Yeah. There's a right way and wrong way to come to this country. If you want to be a part of the greatest nation on earth, there's a right way to do it. And what people need to understand, there's so much pushback. We watch 10, 12,000 a day come across that border under the Biden administration and released. People are angry. And all of a sudden people say, well, they're here. If they don't commit a crime, why don't you just let them stay? Because if that's the message we send to the whole world, you can cross the border illegally, it's a crime, but it's okay. You can get due process in front of an immigration judge and a federal judge, and he says you must leave, but don't worry about it. As long as you don't commit another crime, you're free to go. You're never going to fix this problem.
That's exactly right.
Right? So we got to send a message the right way and wrong way to come. And let me tell you something. What people are ignoring, they say, well, just let them stay. There are millions of people standing in line, taking their tests, paying their fees, doing the background investigations, going through vetting to be part of the greatest nation on earth. They're sitting in the back seat. You had millions of people cheated the system and got in front of the line in front of all these other people. And what other people need to know, well, they were asylum seekers. Okay, call them asylum seekers because they're claiming asylum. But if you look at immigration court data over the last decade, nearly 9 out of 10 of them will not get relief for asylum because they simply don't qualify for asylum. They're not escaping fear and persecution from their home government because of race, religion, and political affiliation. They're coming here for a better life, and I get that, but it's not asylum. So while they're clogging up the system and cheating the system, putting themselves in front of the line, there are actually tens of thousands of people in the world that really are escaping fear and persecution. Now they're sitting in the back of the bus.
That's right.
Because they're overwhelming the system. That's why we have to follow the law, send a strong message, we're a nation of laws, do things the right way. And for the ones that are here illegally, go to CB Home app, go home, or leave on your own. We already know what, based on several studies, 1.6 million has already left on their own.
Okay.
And that's a good thing. You know why? Because they can leave themselves an opportunity to come back under a legal program, whether it's a work visa, a visitor visa. Maybe they have a relative here that can petition for them. You know, there's a lot of legal ways to come into this country. H-2A, H-2B, you know. There's just so many ways to come back in this country. But if we have to go through all the whole process and find you and formally deport you, there are statutory bars you can't come back. Anywhere from 5 years to 20 years to never come back. So leave it on your own, do the right thing, and compete for the legal process, and come back here the legal way, so you don't have to swim across the river. You don't have to put yourselves in the hands of a criminal cartel. Come through a port of entry with a visa, and welcome to the United States.
It's interesting because you brought up the asylum issues. The parole pipeline seems to be a system that we designed intentionally to clog up our own system. I know part of your job is to unwind that. Have we been able to make a lot of progress this year?
The Congress needs to make some changes. If they would change 3 things, you would solve 85% of the border problem for every administration, no matter who the president is, right? Because my fear is the next president, if they're an open borders advocate, they'll do what Joe Biden did and just destroy everything we created. There has to be permanent fixes. And there's 3 things.
The 3 things. I want to get them.
Number 1, change the asylum process, right? When you come across the border, you get your first asylum interview, the threshold of proof is very, very low. Because when it was designed that way, we don't accidentally send someone back to be persecuted or killed, right? So the threshold is very low. But however, when you get to court later, if you show up in court, that threshold is much higher. So the real numbers are about a little over 90% will pass that first interview. They just learn the key phrases from the cartels, teach them what to say.
Right.
Then they get in. Then if they show up in court, the threshold of proof is much higher. Nearly, like I said a minute, it was 86.7 fail. Almost 9 out of 10 fail. So one thing they can do is fix it. The threshold at the border should be the same as judicial threshold. That will save a lot of problems and stop a lot of people from being released in this country, never be seen again, right? The second thing to do is fix the TVPRA, Trafficking Victim Protection Act. If you're a child from Mexico or Canada, a contiguous country, and after you cross the border, if we ascertain through investigative interview that you're not truly a victim of trafficking, you can be immediately removed to your home country and your family. If you're from any other country on the planet, you get a whole different process the last years. That alone has drawn thousands and thousands of children every week across that border in the Biden administration. Once you're here, you'll never leave. The system takes years and years and years. Fix it. If it's ascertained you're not a victim of trafficking, every child from every nationality should be treated the same as a child from Mexico and be returned. The third thing is the Flores Settlement Agreement, which is a court case. It says we can't detain a family. It's actually we can't detain a child, even if they're accompanied families, for over 20 days. Under President Obama, when family units started coming across, we started detaining them in family residential centers that we built. It took about 40 days, somewhere around 40 days, to actually get to see a judge because all the lawyers and the processes and whatever. It took about 40 days. 9 out of 10 lost their case. Sent them home. And guess what? the numbers of family units dropped significantly at the border because they said, okay, there's no free pass here, there's consequences. But the Ninth Supreme Court, Judge Dolly G came back and said, no, you can't hold for 40 days, you can hold for 20. I remember I did an affidavit in that case saying if you do this, it's going to cause a massive surge of children and families. Because if we can only hold for 20 days, that's enough time to see a judge, and they leave and never be seen again. I was called a fearmonger.
Right.
I guess look what happened.
Yeah.
So if they can change the Florida Settlement Agreement, if you're a family coming across the border and you really are escaping fear and persecution, why would you not want to stay in a family residential center? It's not a jail. It's not a Constantino wire. It's an Opus campus setting. Why not stay with the U.S. government for how long as it takes you to judge, 40 days, 35, 40 days? Isn't that better than going back to the country, escaping fear and persecution? If you're really a solid asylum candidate, you should have no problem being with us for 40 days. And if you win, congratulations, you're in the United States. If you don't, we'll put an airplane and send you home. Those three things, if we fix those three things, TVPRA, Flores, in the asylum process, the whole parole process, you solve 85% of the problem on the border.
I want to drill into some data with you. Do we know how many illegal aliens are here? Because I was blown up on the over 20 million.
That's my educated guess. The reason I say that, we've been using 12 million for 2 decades. And we know that 10.5 came to border under Biden. So there's simple math right there. But there's, like I say, you got 2 million gotaways under Joe Biden. So, I'd say over 20 million.
And how many have been deported and how many have self-deported, do you believe, so far this year?
Since President Trump's been in office, there's been about 500 deportations between us and the Border Patrol, and 1.6 million have left on their own. So we're 2 million, 2.1 million already have left this country. And we're not done. We're out there. There's 1,000 teams on the streets right now, and we're going to keep doing it. And if you look, with the numbers, about 500,000 removals or repatriations between CBP and ICE. You look at that, and that's just since January, right?
Yes.
The first 4 months we're not counting because Joe Biden wasn't doing anything. So those 4 months with 500,000, if you extrapolate that for 12 months, that's a historic number of removals.
It seems like there's 2 areas of focus. One is trying to encourage self-deportation. The other is sanctuary cities and states. Can you speak to both of those in terms of the strategies there?
Well, we knew if we're out there enforcing the laws and showing, look, we're going to enforce the law. There's no free pass here. If you're here illegally, if you cross the border illegally, it's a crime. We're looking for you. But we're going to prioritize public safety threats and national security threats, and data clearly shows that's the majority who we're arresting. We knew by doing these operations nationwide, that will send a strong message. Rather than, and there's been, millions of dollars have been spent on advertising. Leave on your own, leave yourself an opportunity to come. I think a lot of people are listening, they're leaving. So that was a part of the whole plan. The plan was to show massive consequences so people will leave on their own, and plus people stop coming. So that was a part of the plan the whole time. Sanctuary cities, they're a speed bump. They're slowing us down. Just because rather than arresting a bad guy in the safety and security of a county jail, one officer can arrest one bad guy in the county jail where it's safe for the alien, safe for the officer, and safer for the public. Releasing a public safety threat back in the public when he's here illegally is just stupid. It increases, the risk of harm to the public. That was so efficient. Back when we had, secure communities where we had presence in all the jails. It's so efficient, so safe. But the sanctuary cities cropped up and expanded, and now they're going to release that public safety threat back into the public. And what does that do? That forces ICE to go into the community and find it. We're not going to just stop doing our job. We're going to find them. If we can't get them in safety and security of jail one-on-one, then we'll send the whole team to the community to find them, because now we got to arrest him on his turf, where he has access to who knows what weapons. And what sanctuary cities are getting is exactly what they don't want. More agents in your community, and more worksite enforcement. If we can't find them in the community, we'll find them at the worksite, and more collateral arrests. When I mean collateral arrests is they're an illegal alien, they should be arrested, but they weren't the target of this operation, the criminal was. But when we find that criminal, and we usually do, many of them, many times they're with others. Others who are in the country illegally but not a criminal threat, well, they're coming too. because we're not going to do what the last 4 years did and tell Border Patrol agents and ICE agents to turn you back. We're not doing that. They're going to uphold the oath they took. They're going to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and are funded to enforce, and we're going to do the job. So people say, well, you're arresting a lot of non-criminals. You want less non-criminals arrested? Let us in the jail. Simple math. More agents in the jail means less agents in the street. So, sanctuary cities, and let me say one more thing about sanctuary cities. It's a lie. When sanctuary cities are saying, well, we're a welcoming community, and we want victims and witnesses of crime, if they're an illegal alien, we want those victims and witnesses of crime that are illegal in the United States to feel free to come report that crime without fear we're working for ICE. That's a bunch of crap. Victims and witnesses of crime don't want the bad guy back in their neighborhood either, right? And it's just, and if anybody go to a go to a neighborhood meeting and ask them one simple question: would you rather have ICE in the jail or in your neighborhood?
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to say? They're going to say the jail.
Right.
Look, the immigrant community, even though many of them are here illegally, they're God-fearing family people. If you're an illegal alien family living in this neighborhood, do you want an illegal alien predator in your neighborhood? No. Do you want an illegal alien convicted DUI 10 times in your neighborhood? No. They want to protect their families too. So this whole garbage of we're protecting victims and witnesses of crime. No, you're not. When you release a public safety threat back in the community, you're putting the victim witness at further harm, including the rest of the community. We don't want to even know who the victim witness is. As a matter of fact, if we knew who the victim was, they can actually get a visa if they're a victim of crime, right? But all we want, you can keep the victim and witness secret, we don't care. We want access to the jail to talk to the guy that you locked in a jail cell. You locked him up. Apparently he's a public safety threat. That's who we want to talk to. Right. So don't play this game, you're protecting victims and witnesses of crime. No, sanctuaries are sanctuary criminals. You're protecting a criminal. And I've said this many times, I've been beaten up about it. When I was an agent, a long time ago, I'm old, I've arrested U.S. citizens for harboring, concealing an illegal alien in their home or the place of business. When we know a criminal illegal alien is sitting in Homan County Jail right now, and we know for a fact he's there because they ran him through NCIC's fingerprints, they automatically bounce up against DHS databases, and we get a read back saying, okay, this guy is sitting in jail right now, we've deported him twice, we have a warrant for his arrest. We want to talk to that guy, but they won't give us access to him. Is that not harboring and concealing? I mean, that's a question for DOJ, but why are they held to a different standard than a regular U.S. citizen? That's harboring and concealing. All we want is access to the guy you locked up. You put him in jail cell. When you're done with him, give us a call. We'll pick him up. And people say, well, we can't hold him for you. It's against, you need a criminal warrant. No, you don't. All you need to do is make a phone call. Say, hey, this guy you got a warrant for, he's being released at 3 p.m. today. And we'd be there to get him. It's a simple process. But they make it sound difficult. They say, well, we need a judicial warrant, not an administrative warrant. Wrong. Read the law. The law doesn't require a judicial warrant. If we had to get a judicial warrant for every illegal alien we arrested, the United States criminal courthouses would never be operated. You're talking millions and millions of people.
So it seems like a political thing. I mean, is there anyone in the sanctuary cities and the sanctuary states who are actually happy with what you're doing? Like, you're going to clean this place up? Or is it everyone feels like they have to take this political grandstand, that they have to
take the political grandstand? These people hate Trump more than they care about the community, obviously. If I was elected mayor or governor and I got federal law enforcement officers in my city to take public safety threat illegal aliens out of my neighborhoods, hey, I'm shoulder to shoulder with you. But again, I think the hatred for Trump and this administration and the political, look, what we're doing every day is showing exactly what happened the last 4 years. When they said it was a secure border and we're deporting 500,000 people and 1.6 million left on their own, what happened to that secure border the last 4 years? You said no one was coming. Yeah. And every day we arrest these criminals and find out these criminals were released under the Biden administration. And Biden administration stood on stage saying every one of these people are vetted. We're showing the last 4 years they lied to the American people. They don't like that. Plus we're ruining their end game. Their end game was this, which no one talks about. Yeah. Why did they release millions of people in the United States rather than detaining them? The federal law says you come across the border without proper documentation, you shall be detained. That's what the statute says. Not maybe, not think about it, not give them to an NGO and put them in a hotel $500 a night. Right. The Biden administration released millions of people. At the same time, they had thousands of empty ICE beds at about $130 a night, sitting empty, already paid for. Why didn't they use those beds rather than give them to an NGO and put them in a hotel $500 a night, 3 meals a day, free medical care? And that's about 4 months work authorization, which is the real reason they came here. Why did they do that? Why did they not detain them? Well, I'll tell you why not. Because they're playing the long game. If you're in detention, I explained this a few minutes ago, you get a hearing within, I think right now it's like 38 to 40 days. 9 out of 10 they're going to lose, and they're going to go home. That's not what they want. If you release them on the non-detained docket to an NGO, their hearings are years out.
Right.
And what happens? Maybe another Democratic administration.
Yes.
Now they can award amnesty. Remember, Biden overturned the Trump census rule. Millions of people will be counted in the next census in these sanctuary cities. What does that mean? More seats in the House for the Dems. We're ruining their long-term plan. And people say, that's racist, that's called the replacement theory. Call it what you want. It is what it is. I'm not a racist, but there has to be a reason you release millions of people on the non-detained docket rather than having them on the detained docket and have a hearing within a month and a half. Why not get due process as quick as you can? They didn't want due process. They wanted these people to stay here until next administration came in and gave a massive amnesty.
So what's your reaction to someone like a Karen Bass in LA who can't keep her city from burning to the ground, or Gavin Newsom, who's been the most prominent politician in my home state, as has been eaten alive by illegal immigration over the last 30 years? And when they act like you're actually the bad guy and you're the villain.
You're welcome. I don't care. But I want to say this. You're welcome. Because ICE has taken thousands and thousands of public safety threats off the streets of California. Yeah. President Trump saved LA. I was in LA when that all started. You know, people say, oh, ICE saw racial profiling. No, I was there. I was running an operation. We were serving criminal search warrants as part of a criminal investigation and cartel funding, money laundering, tax evasion, all that stuff. And all of a sudden people, no, you're just here looking for people looking different, looking for brown people. It was ridiculous. Then it started. You know, the protesting turned violent, the damage to government property, the attacks on ICE officers. I was there. And after 2 days, when Governor Newsom wasn't doing anything, and Karen Bass wasn't doing anything, President Trump sent in the National Guard. President Trump saved LA. But you would think, whether it's Pritzker, Newsom, Bass, Brandon Johnson, you're welcome. Yeah. We made your community safer. If you want to sit on the sidelines and watch us make your community safer, then have at it. Shame on you. But it's worse than that. They're calling you names like fascist, the exact same language. That's a whole new dynamic, right? Because you want to know why. But it's incredibly dangerous. I want to set this up because this is my friend Charlie Kirk got assassinated by someone who was calling him fascist and believe anyone who disagrees politically, someone who represents traditional conserving anything in this country is thus a fascist. Well, absolutely. This is incredibly dangerous for you and your agents. Absolutely. I think I started speaking about this in March, when all that hateful rhetoric was coming out, fascists, Nazis, Gestapo, thugs. I said back then, if this hateful rhetoric doesn't decrease significantly, there will be bloodshed. And of course, the left went crazy. Yeah. Homan's a fearmonger. How dare he say someone's going to get killed? I wish I was wrong, but I wasn't. No. So just in Texas alone, you had one crazy guy with an assault rifle attack a Border Patrol facility. Picked the wrong facility. That was a SWAT training facility. So they killed the man. Had another guy attack Adelanto detention facility in Texas, and one local police officer that responded to help got shot in the neck. Right after that, snipers showed up at the Dallas field house place where I worked at one time, shooting everywhere, hoping to hit ICE agents, shot into our vans are, have heavy blocking. You can't see who actually is in the van. Shooting in the van, hoping to hit ICE officers, actually hit detainees and killed them. Then you got what's happened in Chicago. than what's happening in Portland. Death threats, attacks are up over 1,000%. And I say a lot of it's because of hateful rhetoric coming from some of the media.
Yes.
But mainly the politicians. Because if a U.S. senator can compare ICE to the Nazis, or a U.S. congressperson can compare ICE to the Gestapo, you got that small percentage of crazy people who's going to feel emboldened, empowered. Okay, well, if they're really that, and a U.S. senator's saying that just gives me more reason to go do something.
But are they all crazy people? I'm wondering, is there any evidence that it's
anybody
organized?
That shoots at a cop has lost his mind.
I believe that to a degree, but I also feel like it's organized. I feel like the
it absolutely is organized. You don't think what's happening in Portland is organized? Absolutely. Chicago's organized. Wait, look what happened in L.A. When you got 300 people shot with the same masks, the same shields, the same weapons, and that's happening in Portland and New York and Chicago. Are they all going to the same mini mart buying all this stuff? No, it's being supplied to them. They're being paid to do this. And that's why I'm glad, you got the Department of Justice is all over this. We're going to find out who's funding this, and we're going to hold them accountable.
But we don't know yet.
Because this is a plan. It's being worked.
Good. And do you think that is this like a RICO thing perhaps? How do we go after the people who are trying to coordinate
I don't want to
this
comment on that. That'd be Department of Justice, but I can tell you they are all over this. They will find out who's funding this, and they'll be held accountable.
Do you feel like as of today, as we're having this conversation, is violence increasing still, or has anyone chilled out?
Violence is not going to slow down until the rhetoric slows down. We're arresting, and there's consequences. So hopefully the next month we'll see a small decrease because we've increased 18 U.S.C. 111 prosecutions, which are impediment and assault interference. Those prosecutions are sky high. So hopefully the more and more people they see get locked up and prosecuted, showing consequences, maybe it'll slow down. I'm waiting to see what happens next month because the number of arrests for criminal behavior has vastly increased. So let's see if these consequences send a strong message. So we'll see what the numbers look like next month.
How does this compare to the last administration in terms of violence?
This is the worst. This is the best administration ever, but the violence, I've never seen anything like this. And I've been in this since 1984. I've never seen anything like this, nothing even close.
Are any Democrats helpful at all? I don't mean to make it political, but I don't see one of them out there saying this has got to stop.
No, I can say, most of them won't even talk to me, but I can say that at one point, me and Mayor Adams in New York City had an agreement to get us back into Rikers Island.
And he was crushed for that.
Yeah, I think he was. Obviously, the city council stopped it.
Yeah.
But he wanted us to get back in Rikers Island to get the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail rather than hitting the streets of New York. And the city council squashed that. So I think he tried. But, they're all sticking together pretty much. I mean, I don't have a lot of discussions with them, Democrats, because they hate us, hate this administration, hate me. So, we're going to keep doing what we're doing. Despite this political crap that's going on, we're going to keep enforcing law. We're not going away. We're going to be out there today. We're going to be out there tonight. We're going to be out there tomorrow. This isn't stopping. We're going to do the job President Trump promised the American people we're going to do.
Director Homan, you've been so generous with your time. I want to wrap things up by talking about metrics for success for you. Is there a target number of deportations? How do you measure? Can anyone stay, from your viewpoint, who's here illegally?
If you're in the country illegally, you got a problem. If you're illegally, of course, you got the right to see a judge. The judge will make the decision. But if you cross that border illegally, it's a crime. If you're here illegally, you got a problem, and you're not off the table. I mean, we're doing the smart thing. President Trump said we're going to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats first, the worst first. That's the right thing to do. Like if I'm an agent and I got an illegal alien that rapes somebody here and an illegal alien doesn't commit any crime by the illegal entry over here, I'm going to get the bad guy first. And that's what we're doing. The stats clearly show nearly 70% every arrest is a public safety threat. The other 30% could be national security threats. Those will find orders. But we are prioritizing, and the data shows it. But that doesn't mean everybody else is off the table, because again, if the message we want to send, you cross the border illegally, it's a crime, don't worry about it. Just don't commit another crime, and you're free to stay. You're here forever. If that's the message we send, you're never going to fix it on a long-term basis. No. If you're in the country legally, you're not off the table. I hope you can leave on your own and come back under a legal program.
You're showing incredible leadership here, maybe second only to the president here in the country at this time. When do you feel like you'll have done a good job? When do you feel like you can say this was a successful mission?
This is a successful mission right now, but I will rest and feel good when I know there's not illegal alien, national security threats, or public safety threats walking our neighborhoods. That's when I'll feel good. I don't have a number. As many as we can get.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much on behalf of everyone in Breitbart, and really on behalf of the whole country, even those who don't understand the importance of what you're doing. Keep up the great work, please.